Welcome back to my channel. I'm Tanya Ray, and today we are going to do a reading on what's to come next in your career or finances. This is a pick-a-pile reading, so you are going to be choosing your own adventure here. Before I get started, as I always start every reading out with a little disclaimer that this is a general reading. Because it's a general reading, there are going to be things that fit and things that might not. Don't make something fit that does not feel aligned to you. However, sometimes it is important to look at why you're not resonating with a message. It's either for you or it isn't. I do invite you at the end, if there were any things that stuck out, any messages, etc., to take that a little bit deeper, either through meditation or journaling or whatever resonates with you. Let's take a deep breath in and let it out. Focus in on these 4 beautiful piles here. Starting on this first pile, we have Opalite, an Opalite Egg. The second pile, we have a Lepidolite heart. The third pile has a Pyrite crystal. And finally, our fourth pile has a pink Mangano Calcite. Pay attention to if you feel, know, see, or hear something that alludes you to which deck you would like to choose for this reading. Don't second guess it, but it is nice to pay attention to because that tells you a lot about how you interact with your intuition naturally. Again, trust it because your intuition is not going to lead you astray. All right, if you have not chosen your deck yet, please go ahead and pause this because we are about to get started for pile number 1. Welcome back, group 1. If you chose the pile 1 with the beautiful Opalite, this reading is for you. Starting out with some of the metaphysical uses for Opalite itself. So Opalite is actually really great for helping you to create a sense of emotional balance and inner calm. It helps to reduce anxiety and stress. So if you are dealing with anxiety and stress, especially because this is a career and finance reading, if it's around that, you might want to look into Opalite. Another metaphysical use for Opalite is for connection to higher consciousness, higher self, and to strengthen your overall spiritual connection. So if that's something that you are looking to do, again, Opalite might be the answer or could at least help you out a little bit. Let's see what the cards have to say for what is to come next for career and finances. All right, we have 4 of Cups in reverse. So I feel like it might be safe to say that many of you in group 1 have been feeling a little bit more introspective, maybe even withdrawn from friends. And since we're talking about career, your career or the group of people that you work with, your coworkers, whatever, things like that, you might just prefer to go to work and then come home and not people anymore. And that's okay. The thing to remember is if you are actually withdrawing, and this is also for people who may be looking for work right now and out of work, if you are completely withdrawing from your people, whether that is in your workplace or your personal life, then what is that going to bring in? Because a lot of the time you still have to have those connections, and those connections help you to get where you're wanting to go. So just keep that in mind, that it's okay to be introspective, and sometimes that's really needed, especially if you are people or a person that wants to move forward into a different direction or something. You're going to have to take that time to be introspective. But withdrawn is a completely different thing. The other thing is maybe look at how you're viewing things. There might be a perspective shift that could be very helpful to you in this time. Yeah, because something new is trying to come in. The Fool is a great indicator that there is a new beginning on the horizon, but you have to be willing to take a little bit of risk. The Fool is sometimes a big risk taker, and to his or her detriment. So it doesn't need to be that you act in haste or anything like that, but keep your ears and eyes peeled and pay attention to where you are being potentially resistant to trying something new and what's coming up for you, what's going on in your head when you are presented with these opportunities. I'm hearing adventure brings the spark back. So the Fool definitely is an adventurer. He or she likes adventure. And I guess if you are somebody who kind of feels a little bit like I'm just sort of done with work, then how can you bring the adventure back? And if you can't do it in your workplace, can you balance it out by bringing that into your personal life more so that it improves your life, full stop, which can help with your thoughts about what you're doing for work as well. All right, Ace of Wands, because yes, there's definitely something new, a new spark that's trying to come in. Didn't I just say adventure sparks a new beginning? Is that what I said? Whatever came through, Ace of Wands is that new spark of inspiration. That is what the Ace of Wands is all about. So rest assured that there is something new trying to come in. If you have felt a lack of creativity, a disconnect to that, and that could be what the Four of Cups is about as well, rest assured that it's coming back to you. That's your next chapter when it comes to career and finances. And the Fool and the Ace of Wands are both going to encourage you to make some moves on that. Just thinking about it isn't going to create it. Ooh, we have the Hierophant next. Moving into following your heart's desire, following this new creative spark, you might be moving into that energy of the Hierophant, which is they are very structured in how they do things, knowledgeable, they're teachers, mentors, that sort of energy. It might also be something where you want to work with someone, a mentor or a teacher. And this is the energy of somebody who sort of serves the community or works with the community. So that might be something that you desire to do or you already currently do, or something that you want to move into. There's also just a level of gratitude coming up and opportunity. So the more gratitude that you have, the more likely you are going to have opportunities, and you're going to be connected with people that you can either be the teacher for, or they can be your teacher or mentor, and they can help you along in your career or in building your finances. Page of Cups next to the Fool makes me laugh because the Page of Cups, I always think of as the Fool light. And the reason I think that is because the Page of Cups is the dreamer and the Fool is the same way. The Page of Cups kind of tends to believe in the impossible being possible. So how can you be a little bit more like these energies? However, let me go back to over here. there needs to be a structured way of handling these things and being a little bit more organized, because sometimes to their detriment, the Fool and the Page of Cups may not be very structured or organized because they're just kind of going with the flow of life and they are in it for the adventure. Whereas the Hierophant, I think I say it different every time, my apologies, is that structured, organized energy that understands that consistency and having a method to your madness is going to help you get where you want to go. So having a balance there of being able to follow your sparks of inspiration and embracing the adventure of life, believing in the impossible, but also being logical about it. Yeah, because we have judgment. So judgment can mean balancing things out and making sure that you're paying attention or you're weighing all of your options. At the same time, judgment can also be seeing things in a new light. So when we're talking about career and finances, you might find that you are looking at things a little bit differently. You're definitely going on quite a journey in the next couple of months. So that's what I'll say, even though I wasn't doing a timeline reading specifically. You're definitely going on a journey when it comes to your career in the next couple of months. Now, if you're wondering, but Tanya, am I going to make the money? Let's see what the Oracle cards have to say. But it does definitely look promising. You are going to make money, even if right now things aren't what you want them to look like. The only thing that I would pay attention to is with judgment and the Hierophant and all of that. Just be mindful of how you're spending money and what you're investing in and all of those things. But keep a healthy balance of the two, of, like I said, logic and planning and being systematic about things or doing things in a systematic way, as well as being a little bit more adventurous, having a little bit more joy, and following those things that light you up, because they are going to lead you somewhere important. But you can't follow all of them either. I should point that out. So that's kind of where the logic comes in. Don't allow yourself to get stuck in the indecision, but making a decision on which path to choose, even if you then choose a different one later, is going to help you out in the long run, instead of spreading yourself too thin. And I think this was already clear, but as far as career goes, it does definitely look like most of you in Group 1 are going to experience some kind of change. It feels very much positive. It feels like it could be lucrative and that it could be very fulfilling for you, but you have to be willing to choose it. All right, let's see what else we have for group number 1. What do the Oracle cards have to say? Purification. So there's something big in this reading about renewal and starting fresh. And that's really what purification is about, right? It's about starting fresh and cleaning things up a little bit. So even though we're talking about finances, this could be like cleaning up your physical space or your physical body, drinking more water, getting more exercise, going on a cleanse. But it also can be purification in terms of how you're spending money. How are you thinking about your career, about money, about all of those things, and cleaning out any thoughts that aren't really doing you any good. So exploring that first and figuring out what those thoughts are, and then are they things that you really want to continue holding on to? Are they serving a bigger purpose for you? And if not, how can you rewire them? or clear them out. And we have essence. And these two really make sense to me coming out next to each other or together, because once you go through a purification stage, then you're closer to seeing your true essence and being able to let that shine and let it be seen and felt. And that really helps when we're talking about career and finances, because the more authentic you can be, the more successful you're going to be. Especially, that's sitting on judgment. And judgment can be about looking at yourself in the mirror and seeing the truest or highest version of yourself. Ooh, and energy. In doing this, you're going to have a lot more energy. You're going to feel really revived. And I feel like this goes hand in hand with the Ace of Wands energy of the Ace of Wands. That's the spark of light, and you following that spark of light and being reinvigorated. So you're definitely in this time of transformation, and I really dread having to say this in every reading because it gets so broken record-ish, but it really does feel like you are in a place that is very transformational, because we've got the death and rebirth energy, if you will, and then that spark of light that's going to light you up or help you remember why you're doing the things that you're doing and what you truly want out of this life and how to obtain it and all of those things. So energy. Now, some of you, this might actually be that you work with energy in some way for your career. I just had to say that. I don't know exactly why. Could be energy healing. It could be more like working at the energy company. I don't know. Or, working on clean energy, as well as, helping people with their energy, like working at a gym as a personal trainer or something like that. That's just for some of you, but that's kind of what is coming out. But more so, it's reinvigorating your own energy. And the way that you do that is through purification, witnessing your own essence and like really letting that shine. And your energy is going to improve. And when your energy improves, it's a lot easier to make money, to perform in your career, all of the things. In any kind of relationship reading, I love to get some inner child cards going, because our inner child holds most of our belief systems that are either allowing us to be successful, but most of the time are holding us back. And I say relationship and you're like, but we're doing a career and finance reading. Well, I'm talking about our relationship with finances and even with our career. Your inner child wants you to know, get lost, fall deep into the realm of imagination. Ooh, okay, beautiful. So it's kind of echoing the Fool and the Page of Cups energy, because they're both very imaginative. They can be very childlike in a lot of ways of, like I said, being the dreamer energy, being able to use their imagination and not so much worry about if they know all of the steps or what's going to happen, because they're in it for the adventure. So fall deep into the realm of imagination. So how can you be a little bit more imaginative? How can you let that spark of inspiration really lead you into some big things? And I think we have one more from your inner child. Yes. Write a letter to your inner child. This letter can be really about anything that you feel called to write about. If you are really resonating with the stories about money, like that your inner child is holding stories about money or what's possible and that sort of thing, what's possible for you, maybe write him or her a letter about what you've already accomplished. And you can even ask them in there, do you have any advice for me? And of course, you'll probably have to answer that question yourself, but you can through journals. You and your inner child are so deeply connected. You are one. So you can communicate with them in that way anytime that you want to. And especially if you're having a hard time with that imagination piece, ask your inner child to show you and remind you of what it's like to be in your imagination more. And if you're not somebody who is resonating with the endings specifically, like you're secure in your career, this could be any sort of ending, because when you're stepping into a new version of yourself, sometimes you are going to grieve the older version of yourself. You're going to mourn them a little bit because you are going through some sort of ego death. It actually can feel like death sometimes, depending on how drastic it is. So I'm getting very strongly that those of you in group 2 are motivated to make some changes. So the ending could be more like something like that. Now, the other thing that I'm getting that's popping up is, for some of you, the ending that your inner child is referring to is, you know that you have to end a certain career situation or way of spending or something to that effect in order to get to the next space. And that can be scary because, especially if in terms of spending, this could be some sort of coping mechanism, which of course is probably not healthy, but it's still scary to let it go. Or when we're talking about career, it's always scary to turn your back on your career, even, you know, if you have something new lined up, because it's scary to step into that new role and wonder, like, am I making the right choice? But I really feel that your inner child is just giving you that pat on the back of, like, of course you're making the right choice, if we're going to actually label it anything, because there's not really necessarily a right or wrong choice. It's just a choose your adventure sort of situation. And I know people don't always love hearing that, but in some ways it can be really freeing to understand that you're not going to make a wrong choice. You're just going to have possibly different experiences and lessons based on the choices that you make. And we're going to round this reading out with some soul journey lesson cards. So sometimes they read more as affirmations, and sometimes they are more like lessons, like I said, that you are currently learning and growing through. All right, so we have blame. And what blame says is, I accept responsibility for my well-being. And interestingly, I put that over purification, where we were talking about the mind, body, soul aspects of caring for ourselves. So if you're feeling any sort of resentment towards others or towards your situation, it might be helpful to explore that more. And blame is not about then turning the blame on yourself, so to speak, so that you're guilting yourself or making yourself feel shame. It's more about taking accountability for who you are and how you show up, even if maybe you're in a situation where you're not being shown the respect. Because the more that you do show up in integrity to yourself and authenticity and all of that, and the more that you're still going to open up doors to be recognized for everything that you bring to the table, whether it be in your current role or somewhere else, I mean, there's been times in the past where I've been working somewhere and people have literally said, hey, do you want to come work for me? I appreciate how you do your job. Can we talk? So there are possibly doors opened up based on how you carry yourself in your current role that you're not necessarily thinking about. Now, I accept responsibility for my well-being. This is also make sure that you're looking at all aspects of well-being like we talked about, and are those impeding on your ability to bring in money and feel secure in your career. And then we have empathy. Empathy is, I am open to seeing both sides of the situation. And we talked about that already, of being able to see higher perspectives or the perspectives of both sides and not necessarily taking sides all of the time. Like, you have your stance, but understanding that sometimes it's not beneficial to you to be too, the word that's coming to my mind is too hard-headed or too stubborn about what it is that you believe, because having empathy for others is going to be helpful to not only you, but especially to the other people. So when we're talking about team building of any sort or anything like that, having a bit of empathy for each other is going to go a long way. And being open to hearing other people out. Not when they're wasting your time and just trying to, win, but sometimes people just need to feel like they are heard, especially when it comes to being at work, because I think we've all had those experiences where we've had a manager that wouldn't hear us and always wanted to point the blame, or a coworker or something like that, and it can be very frustrating. And it really does a number on the morale. So with that, imagination. We were talking about imagination as well. I embrace and nourish the creative aspect of my mind. That can relate back to the Six of Cups also, where we are talking about inner child stuff and childhood stuff. Can you bring the imagination back in? And if you do, what could that potentially create for you? Let me know if this resonates, if you have any questions, and if you have any big ahas that you are willing to share. I am happy to read them. I hope this blesses you. Just as a recap, it sounds like something pretty exciting is likely to happen next for those of you in group 2 when it comes to career, and it could happen fairly fast, but there is maybe some personal growth that needs to take place first, or that is going to help you along the way. Like I said, have an amazing time, and I'll see you soon. Welcome back, group 2. If you chose the pile with these moon faces as well as the Lepidolite heart, this one is for you. What's coming next in your career and or finances? Before we get started with the cards, I always like to give a little overview of some of the metaphysical uses for the crystal on your pile. And like I said, you have Lepidolite. Lepidolite is really great for helping with anxiety and helping you to return to inner calm or inner balance, which is interesting because the last group had Opalite, and some of the metaphysical properties are very similar in these two. I also think that it's important to note that some of you might actually be having some anxiety, some added stress, etc. around finances and career. So perhaps if you're feeling that, this crystal might be something you want to look into to help support you. The other notable thing, there are many, but the one that's coming to my brain right now is that Lepidolite is a purple crystal, as you can see. So that would mean that it can be associated with the third eye chakra and the crown chakra. It can also help deepen your spiritual connection, your connection to your intuition and your higher self, as well as higher states of consciousness. Right, let's see what the cards have to say. Messy shuffling there, but I've already pre-shuffled, so we'll just... Okay. We'll just do hand over and see if these cards resonate, because they did fly out. We've got the King of Wands in reverse and the King of Swords upright. And actually, immediately I'm feeling like this is the message for you. A lot of the times I would just take that as me being clumsy, but let's go with it. The King of Wands is heart-led, he's passionate, and he's led from that energy of just fire and let's do this. But in reverse, it's telling me that perhaps right now you're in a space where you're either uninspired or you're inspired but lacking the ambition or the know-how or something to that effect of how to get there. You might have a passion project. It's not seeming to pan out for you. And it's because the King of Swords upright is saying, we need to focus on logic here. We need to focus on structure and really building a solid plan to move forward. So this can be also related to some sort of power struggle, whether it's internal, like I was just talking about, or a literal power struggle with someone in management, your boss, or if you are the boss, if you're the leader, the manager. Perhaps there is something there to look at where there might be some kind of conflict going on, and the advice is to try to see things from a broader perspective, because the King of Swords can really see that. The King of Swords is able to look at things and see multiple perspectives at one time and take things a little bit deeper in that way. If you're somebody who's actually considering, or the goal is to move up in what you're currently doing into a managerial role, and you're second guessing that at all, your ability to, or what have you, this is the sign of it's just time to look at it from a different perspective, as well as perhaps adjust the plan. And if you don't have a clear plan, that's what's blocking you. What steps are you going to take to get yourself to this ideal spot? How can you consistently commit to that? The other thing is that the King of Wands, very passionate. King of Wands in reverse might indicate that you are somebody who takes a lot of risks because you want to follow that passion, or you've already taken a risk and it hasn't panned out quite the way that you want it. Right now, it's time to put a solid footing to your plans. And it's not so much the time to be the risk taker. There's always some risk involved in change, right? Because there's a level of unknown. But I'm talking about the big risks. Like, I wouldn't necessarily recommend for group 2s that, you know, it's time to just quit that job and go it alone without a solid plan. Although, realistically, I probably wouldn't tell anyone that. Oh, interesting. Now we have the Queen of Swords. There is a very strong emphasis on being a thought leader of some sort. So you might be somebody who teaches, who shares ideas, or somebody who wants to be that person. Again, the importance here is to come into this as balanced and as planned out as you possibly can. Not over planning, not anything like that, but not just throwing spaghetti at the wall either. Taking a logical approach to what it is you're trying to create. And then there's this huge emphasis on balance again, because this can be read as masculine energy, feminine energy. We all have both. It does not matter what our gender is. So the king is about being, logical, rational, and strategic, like I was talking about. And the queen is about tuning a little bit more into the intuitive side of knowing things and being able to discern what is for you and what isn't, what's going to work and what isn't, or I should say what you are going to be served by spending your time on and what you may not be, as well as the people and all of that you're spending time with. So we are the company that we keep. And I know that that's cliche, but it's also really true, because all of those things that other people are saying, that can infiltrate how we are thinking about things as well. So Queen of Swords is really great at setting boundaries. Again, if you are in a leadership role or that's something that you desire, setting stronger boundaries in that role is going to help you. And it's going to help you be a more effective manager or leader or teacher or what have you. So just to recap a little bit before I pull more cards, I really feel like those of you in group 2 are really stepping into, or you're going to find that you in the near future are stepping into a version of yourself that is more well-rounded and balanced in how you see things. And there's an energy that I'm feeling of being a lot more organized, as well as, like I said, the balance part comes in with the masculine and feminine roles or energies that we all portray, where some parts of it are tuning into ourselves and hearing the messages there and being able to act upon them, as well as being able to hear and see and lead from multiple perspectives in a fair way. I do feel like many of you are going to be recognized for your thoughts, your ideas, and some of this is because you are actively doing work to achieve this. So my best advice from the cards is to keep going if you are somebody who has been adjusting the way that you're looking at things and the way that you are tackling moving up. Now, if it's something that you are trying to, you're trying to find a new role or a new path, I feel like this is a good sign that you're almost there. Something is going to come in, but let's see what the other cards have to say. So Six of Cups is largely about nostalgia and your childhood and connecting back into that energy. It's about the past, but it's not so much usually about holding on to the past in an unhealthy way that's holding you back. What I'm getting is looking back at the things that bring you joy and the things that or brought you joy as a child, and being more imaginative, because when we're children, we don't worry about looking silly because we're being imaginative. That's something that's learned when somebody says, oh, that's just your imagination, and you feel like you're being made fun of, or you are being made fun of, right? So that's a learned behavior. We don't feel shame around that to begin with. So my point on that is that it could be good to look at even things that you wanted to do as a child. And a lot of us have semi-unrealistic goals or goals that are not aligned to who we are today. Like being an astronaut, most of us don't actually want to be that as an adult. But there's something in there that could reinvigorate your search or your passion for what you do, something like that. It's going to help It might even help inspire you if you're somebody who is actually trying to move into something new or create something new, if you're an entrepreneur or something like that. Looking at that. Now, the other thing that I bring up usually in a financial and career reading or any kind of relationship reading when the Six of Cups comes up is it is a good idea to look at what your belief systems are around making money or getting the job or advancing in your career in some way, because most of that is tied to your inner child, to your childhood. And by the way, Six of Cups can definitely mean inner child work. In a lot of readings, that's what it means for me. Okay, so we have the Star in reverse as well. So I just said that it might be time to reinvigorate this search or the way that you're thinking about your current position or something like that. And the Star kind of gives me that vibe as well because it's in reverse. And in reverse, that tends to mean that you've lost a little bit of faith. And in this case, probably faith in yourself, faith in the ability to make money or to get that role that you want or something like that. And I'm really weirded out right now because I almost feel like I've already done this reading. So I'm going to have to go back to group 1 and see if they said the same or had the same cards. But this is a very big energy of what are you holding on to? What belief systems do you have that you might not even really be aware of until you dig in that are holding you back from being confident and having faith in yourself and in the process? Because we were talking at the very start about this could be some kind of power struggle in work, managerial issues or something with the team that isn't working out. It's not about making things work that have run their course, but how do you make it work just long enough to get out of there or to find something better? And it's really important to understand that having faith in yourself and how you show up and being proud of how you show up and knowing that you are showing up in integrity, shining with your authenticity, that's all going to help. But again, circling back to the Six of Cups and what we were talking about there, it's really important that you look at any belief systems, whether it's around money, your ability to create your goals, or even some, for a lot of us, it's just doubt of, I'm never going to figure it out because I don't really know what I want to do. Go back to your inner child and write down your thoughts around whatever the topic is. If it's money, write down your thoughts on money. Then go through that, and the ones that really stand out to you, investigate them further. Ask your inner child or ask yourself, when was the first time that I thought this? And a lot of the time, what's going to happen is you're going to realize that you had this thought for the first time when you were a little kid, overhearing your parents bickering about money, or a teacher said XYZ, because when we are 8 and under, we create belief systems that we carry with us a lot of the time for our whole lifetimes, and we don't really know why, but we're storing all of that subconsciously as children, and it can wreak havoc on our self-confidence and worth and ability to create the things that we are trying to create in this life. So it's really worth taking a bigger look at. And let's round this out with one more card before we move on to oracle cards. All right, so we have the Chariot, and this typically indicates movement and potentially fast movement. It's also often considered a victory card, meaning you are going to experience some sort of victory. So this is good news for group 2 that you're on the right path if you are somebody who is doing this work to better your chances of advancement or building a stronger financial foundation or whatever it is that is your goal, you're on the right track more than likely. The Chariot, in my mind, like I said, is often fast-paced, meaning that there could be some quick changes ahead for Group 2 when it comes to career and finances. This could also literally mean some kind of movement is necessary or is coming up in those areas. So this could be an actual move. Some of you might find that you want to move for a specific job. Some of you might find that you need to travel for work. Or you might be served to just move in some way, move spaces to get a different perspective when it comes to this job search, if that's what you're in, or in improving your finances, if that's something that's resonating for you. So definitely some movement, definitely some good signs that you're on the right track, that something's about to change for you in Group 2 for the better. But let's see what the Oracle cards have to say. All right, we have Soul Coaching. Purification. Certain that this came up in the last group. Can't make this up. So purification feels like it's about really looking at all of the things that you are spending your resources on. This is your time, your energy, etc. And where can you clean that up a little bit? Where can you kind of start fresh so that you can see what's working and what isn't? And that makes sense based on the things that we were talking about seeing higher perspectives and creating that balance between masculine and feminine energy, boundaries, and being strategic and a leader, that type of energy. As well as purification is about the physical purification of the body, mind, and spirit. So what that can look like is maybe you're called to do some kind of cleanse, or to move your body more, or to just look at things with a brand new perspective and see, what in my life is working and what isn't, and is it impacting my confidence or my ability to create the things that I'm trying to create. So, in other words, a fresh start, okay? Whatever that looks like for you. Ooh, and strength. And this card is so cool with the dragon. You are in the process of really showing and understanding your strengths more, and being able to use them in a way that is showcasing just what you bring to the table so other people can see it. So that's what's coming, is a deeper understanding of your own strength and a deeper understanding of the things that you've been through are things that are helping you to create a stable path. It's also helping you create the ability to be truly seen by others. I might have already said that. Ooh, and opening. Yes, this totally makes sense, because opening is about being open to change, being open to evaluate things and clear out things that do not feel aligned anymore, or they feel like they're keeping you stuck in the river of misery, so to speak. Being open to, I might not know exactly what's going to happen or how this is going to go, but I'm open to see what it might bring me, what might be created through just being open and having a little bit more faith that if something is meant for you, it is not going to miss you. But you still have to have your eyes and ears open and be open to the possibilities, because otherwise you're going to block yourself from the thing that is meant for you. Because there's no timeline on when it's going to come in. It depends on when you open yourself up to that. Because if you're blocking it, then it's not that it's not meant for you, but it's not meant for you at this moment. And our inner child, like I mentioned before, holds a lot of the answers to the things that we believe about our ability to have the career, to make the money, etc. Okay, yeah, set boundaries, claim your power, and know your value today. So we're layering that right over the Queen of Swords, and she's all about setting clear boundaries. I think we talked about this before. She's also, by the way, a very clear communicator, but it's in a fair way. So she very clearly communicates her boundaries as well as her thoughts and ideas. And she doesn't allow any worry about what other people are going to think to deter her from doing it. And that can be really important when we're talking about career. So your inner child wants you to set boundaries and remember your value. And it's never truly the end. Beloved, in this, everything will be okay. So if you are somebody who has experienced an ending in regards to career, like maybe you were severed or something like that, or you feel like that needs to end, know that this is the sign that that's happening for a bigger reason and that things are going to be okay. And perhaps that your strength is just being tested at this moment, but it's going to create something better for you in the long run. If that's not you, this could be just more talk about boundaries in general, because sometimes we worry so much about either ending relationships or setting stronger boundaries around them that it is going to end the relationship or cause an end to whatever it is that you're doing. And if you're not somebody who is resonating with the endings specifically, like you're secure in your career, this could be any sort of ending, because when you're stepping into a new version of yourself, sometimes you are going to grieve the older version of yourself. You're going to mourn them a little bit because you are going through some sort of ego death. It actually can feel like death sometimes, depending on how drastic it is. So I'm getting very strongly that those of you in group 2 are motivated to make some changes. So the ending could be more like something like that. Now, the other thing that I'm getting that's popping up is, for some of you, the ending that your inner child is referring to is, you know that you have to end a certain career situation or way of spending or something to that effect in order to get to the next space. And that can be scary, because especially if in terms of spending, this could be some sort of coping mechanism, which of course is probably not healthy, but it's still scary to let it go. Or when we're talking about career, it's always scary to turn your back on your career, even, if you have something new lined up, because it's scary to step into that new role and wonder, like, am I making the right choice? But I really feel that your inner child is just giving you that pat on the back of, like, of course you're making the right choice. if we're going to actually label it anything, because there's not really necessarily a right or wrong choice. It's just a choose your adventure sort of situation. And I know people don't always love hearing that, but in some ways it can be really freeing to understand that you're not going to make a wrong choice. You're just going to have possibly different experiences and lessons based on the choices that you make. And we're going to round this reading out with some soul journey lesson cards. So sometimes they read more as affirmations, and sometimes they are more like lessons, like I said, that you are currently learning and growing through. All right, so we have blame. And what blame says is, I accept responsibility for my well-being. And interestingly, I put that over purification, where we were talking about the mind, body, soul aspects of caring for ourselves. So if you're feeling any sort of resentment towards others or towards your situation, it might be helpful to explore that more. And blame is not about then turning the blame on yourself, so to speak, so that you're guilting yourself or making yourself feel shame. It's more about taking accountability for who you are and how you show up, even if maybe you're in a situation where you're not being shown the respect. Because the more that you do show up in integrity to yourself and authenticity and all of that, and the more that you're still going to open up doors to be recognized for everything that you bring to the table, whether it be in your current role or somewhere else. I mean, there's been times in the past where I've been working somewhere and people have literally said, hey, do you want to come work for me? I appreciate how you do your job. Can we talk? So there are possibly doors opened up based on how you carry yourself in your current role that you're not necessarily thinking about. Now, I accept responsibility for my well-being. This is also make sure that you're looking at all aspects of well-being like we talked about, and are those impeding on your ability to bring in money and feel secure in your career. And then we have empathy. Empathy is, I am open to seeing both sides of the situation. And we talked about that already, of being able to see higher perspectives or the perspectives of both sides, and not necessarily taking sides all of the time. Like, you have your stance, but understanding that sometimes it's not beneficial to you to be too, the word that's coming to my mind is hard-headed or too stubborn about what it is that you believe, because having empathy for others is going to be helpful to not only you, but especially to the other people. So when we're talking about team building of any sort or anything like that, having a bit of empathy for each other is going to go a long way. And being open to hearing other people out, not when they're wasting your time and just trying to, win, but sometimes people just need to feel like they are heard, especially when it comes to being at work, because I think we've all had those experiences where we've had a manager that wouldn't hear us and always wanted to point the blame, or a coworker or something like that, and it can be very frustrating, and it really does a number on the morale. So with that, imagination. We were talking about imagination as well. I embrace and nourish the creative aspect of my mind. That can relate back to the Six of Cups also, where we are talking about inner child stuff and childhood stuff. Can you bring the imagination back in? And if you do, what could that potentially create for you? Let me know if this resonates, if you have any questions, and if you have any big ahas that you are willing to share. I am happy to read them. I hope this blesses you. Just as a recap, it sounds like something pretty exciting is likely to happen next for those of you in group 2 when it comes to career, and it could happen fairly fast, but there is maybe some personal growth that needs to take place first, or that is going to help you along the way. Like I said, have an amazing time, and I'll see you soon. Welcome back, group 3. If you chose Pyrite and this beautiful deck right here, this is your reading for what's to come next in your career and or finances. Pyrite, by the way, which is also on my hand, is a really great stone for helping to bring in more abundance, especially monetary abundance. So I'm sure some of you might have chosen it for that reason, and it makes sense because we're doing a finance and career reading. Some of the other uses are helping to build more self-confidence and connecting to your self-worth and really understanding that, because it is kind of a gold yellow color, so it can be associated with connection to your solar plexus, your personal power center. So connecting to your personal power a little bit more as well. I always like to start the readings out with just a brief overview of some of the metaphysical uses for the crystals, because it usually plays into the reading in some way. And I think we've already established that it definitely is going to play into the reading in some way when we're talking about potential monetary abundance. Okay, this is a really good sign to start out the reading with, because if you don't already feel like you're winning, so to speak, that you're building financial stability and security, this is a good sign that you are, and that your independence is really shining. You're also likely somebody who has really put in the work. And if you are currently questioning whether it's going to pay off, it definitely feels like this is a sign that it's going to, but let's see what the next card is. Ooh, interesting. So with the 3 of Wands added to this, for some of you, this might mean some kind of travel, especially overseas. Perhaps making that kind of move for your career. I highly doubt that that's going to be true for everyone that is receiving group 3's reading. But if that's something that interests you, that you've been looking into, this is a sign that that's probably going to be a positive choice for you. And another thing that's coming up right off the bat, again, is you're definitely a person that is paving your own way, or that's a strong suit for you. So if you're thinking about entrepreneurship or something like that, that might be a positive choice for you, because you are somebody who can do that. And you might also be guided not necessarily to relocate, but to do some sort of business overseas, something like that. But of course, with 3 of Wands, it doesn't need to mean anything about moving or being overseas or anything like that. It also means that you are making the progress. The things that you are currently doing are paving the way. You might not necessarily see the fruits of your labor yet. And that's something that people don't always like about the 3 of Wands, is sometimes it can mean having a little bit more patience and seeing it through. This is your sign that if you've been working toward something for a while and building foundations and doing the work, see it through, because this has the potential for longevity and building a stable and secure foundation for you, and to be lucrative. But ooh, interesting. So we do have the Fool right after I said this might be something that you've been working toward for a while, but the Fool indicates potentially something new. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to abort ship and start over fresh, but it does mean that there's likely a new opportunity or a new way of looking at things coming to you. So keep your ears and eyes open. The Fool is a risk taker. The Fool loves adventure. So this is your sign to be a bit more open to that. A bit more open to seeing things from a broader perspective. Also, the Fool doesn't need to know everything. He's curious, and that's why he's going on the journey. He wants to learn, but he knows that he doesn't know everything. And he's open to learning new things, learning new ways of looking at things and doing things. So your openness to that and your openness to a little bit of adventure is going to really probably pay off. Let's see what else is coming up. But yeah, the Fool is kind of a go-ahead card of if you've been thinking about trying something new or a new opportunity has presented itself and you're pondering whether or not it's going to pan out. This is a good indication that you might want to look into that further. But, we've got 2 cards. Number 1, we've got the Moon, and the Moon can be about fear and seeing through the illusion. And I was just about to say with the Fool is the one thing that you want to be aware of is that the Fool can act a little bit impulsively. And sometimes that's a good thing and sometimes it's not. But paying attention to where you're fearing taking some risk or following the adventure of life in some ways when it comes to your finances or career is going to be important here. As well as making sure that there isn't anything shady going on. So listen to your intuition on that. And your intuition isn't going to be that nagging energy of you're doing something wrong or anything like that. Often our intuition is a lot softer than our ego. Our ego's trying to keep us alive and keep us safe. And as a result, often our fears are perpetuated. But our intuition, like I said, is often a lot more soft. And it's just a feeling or a knowing or something to that effect of this is the thing for me or this isn't the thing for me. So being intuitive and listening to that more is going to be useful to you. Now, the 6 of Pentacles came out with the Moon, and the 6 of Pentacles is a really good sign that everything that you have put out is about to come back to you. So if you're somebody who has been very generous with your time, energy, and or finances, your money, any of your resources, that's going to come back to you. If you're somebody who's saying, well, actually, I don't feel like I've been very generous. I've been sort of on my own path and not really working with the community, or I haven't had anything to give. Number 1, maybe you're being hard on yourself because have you been giving other resources that aren't money? The other thing is that this card then possibly indicates that it's time to start giving a little bit more, not to a point that it's going to be to your detriment, but the more that you're involved with your community and willing to help in any way, like it could be giving some knowledge that you have or something like that, it is going to be recognized and it's going to come back to you tenfold. Okay, I don't normally say that it's going to come back to you tenfold just because the 6 of Pentacles came out. It does usually mean that the more that you care for others, the more you are going to get back in return, as well as there's a piece of that that's about generosity, and true generosity means that you're doing it out of the kindness of your heart, not because you're trying to receive something in return. But there is a level of trust there of like, I'm not going to lose out by sharing my knowledge or sharing resources with people when I can, when it's not going to hurt me in any way, and it could only benefit them, and not seeing it as I'm doing this for the reason of recognition or getting paid or whatever, and just playing with that, because you can definitely find out that you will be recognized for that something is going to pay out or work in your favor because you've been giving with that generous heart. Again, not to your detriment though. So if you are somebody who gives and gives and gives and gives and gives, and you're like, but I haven't been receiving anything back, that's because you're out of alignment. You've been giving too much without allowing yourself to receive. I brought up the tenfold thing because that just spilled out of my mouth. So some of you are about to get paid off because of the things that you have been contributing in a big way in some sort. It might be monetary, or it could be some sort of recognition that translates into an opportunity to make money or to advance in your career, things like that. So something really exciting feels like it's coming your way in group 3. We do have Queen of Cups in reverse, so that is definitely telling me that what I just said about giving too much, that it's at the expense of yourself, is potentially a problem for many of you in group 3. So allowing yourself to receive more and digging deep into, why do I not think I'm worthy of receiving? Why don't I allow myself to receive? Why do I feel like I have to pour into everyone else's cup, but I'm not willing to pour into my own? It's also about allowing yourself to feel your emotions. That's one of the most loving things that anyone can do for themselves. And when we're talking about career and finances, I know that a lot of that can be really sensitive, because we're either having thoughts of scarcity, or, we're going through things that are scary when it comes to finances, or we're not happy in our careers and we don't know which way to go and things like that. So if you're having thoughts like that, understand that that's your invitation to start processing that. And maybe it's journaling, maybe it's meditation, maybe it's talking it through with someone else, a coach or a therapist or something like that. That's going to help you to release, to let go of that stuff, so you don't have to carry it all anymore. And it's going to open you up to so many opportunities. We are talking about personal power and victory in independence. But understand that you don't have to do everything alone just because you have experienced success in that way. You might be the type of person who has had a lot of thoughts of like, it's only going to get done well if it's me that does it, or you just tend to be the person that doesn't necessarily delegate. You want to ensure that things are done in a certain way, and so you do them yourself. Again, this is about making sure you are pouring into your own cup first, because you're really not doing anyone else any good, and you're probably not doing yourself any good when it comes to career and finances if you're not allowing yourself that time. Refueling. Let's see what the oracle cards have to say. Hello, success. Look at this card too. It's like a kingdom. In case you were wondering, you have a strong potential of experiencing success very soon. Success in building stronger finances and stability in that. Success in if you're trying to follow a new path, or you are an entrepreneur, something like that, or somewhere in your career. There is success coming, and I don't know if you saw that, but a card just flew out and landed on the ground. Energy. I don't believe in coincidences, really. And energy is sitting right over The moon, which we talked about, the moon can expose our fears and illusions to things. So sometimes the illusion is what we see as fact, when really, obviously, it's the illusion. And that's causing us not to be able to see a clear way forward. I also want to show, all three of these cards right here are yellow. They're the sun. And that's that's very much about abundance and joy and following the path and knowing that you're not going to be led astray, that you are going somewhere. So with that said, we have energy, which is also like super light, and she's over the moon. She's over the moon. Yes, I just said that. She's over the moon and the Queen of Cups in reverse. The more that you face any fears that are potentially making it harder for you to see a true way forward or a true path, and the more that you pour into your own cup and allow yourself to feel, the more invigorated and energized you're going to be, so that you can create this success. And passion. And I love this card so much because it's a little kid sitting and watching fireworks. And right after this, I'm going to read inner child messages for you because I think that's important when we're talking about career and finances, because our inner child carries so many of our belief systems around money and self-worth and career. But when we're talking about passion, and there's this little kid watching fireworks and enjoying life and experiencing the magic of life, passion and your career. You do not have to be passionate about your career to be successful, but looking back at the things that create passion within you, that light you up, can definitely help you be more successful. How can having a passion for life, maybe you do a career that you're like, I'm not really passionate about it, but I like the money because it creates my opportunities to do X, Y, Z. In other words, what I'm trying to say here is that because you make the money that allows you to do the things that you're passionate about, is there a way to look at it and reinvigorate your passion in some way so that you are able to create more abundance? Because abundance reacts to the energy of gratitude and joy and all of those higher vibrational emotions that we have. Obviously, for some of you, this means literally following your passions. And what are they, and how can that lead to more monetary abundance and to potentially a new career or success in your current career, business, that sort of thing. All right, we have do what you need to do. It may be difficult, but now is the time. So if there's anything lingering that this is something that I need to give more attention to. By the way, Queen of Cups, something that I didn't really touch on necessarily because I was very focused on the emotional healing aspect. This could also mean not listening to your intuition and it's right by the moon as well, which can be allowing your ego to run the show and not really hearing the intuitions of things. So if there's something around your career or finances or how you're operating in life that could be affecting that it's time to end it or change it in some way, and there's some resistance to that because, of course, change is, we're always going to have a little bit of resistance because it's uncomfortable. Your inner child's like, hey, let's look at this. Like, let's actually do this thing because It's preventing us from experiencing the abundance and the success that is ours. And today is the day. It's time to begin the journey. So that's a very the fool energy of new beginnings and taking that leap. So if you're somebody who has been waiting for that sign, there it is, right from your inner child. It's time to take that leap. It's time to start this new journey. Again, that means what it means for you. I don't need to translate that for you because you already know. Does it mean going a completely new route, or does it mean that you're just tweaking something, you're changing roles, etc.? We have one more deck that actually provides soul lessons, but sometimes they read more like affirmations, and other times they're very much lessons that you're currently learning around career and finances or finances. Ooh, this one hasn't come up yet. Humor. I choose to focus on the lighter side of life. So yeah, having more fun. I believe we were talking about that a little bit with passion. Having more fun, laughing a little bit more. All of those things are going to help you create success. Not everything has to be so serious, because sometimes when we get too serious, we fall into the trap of perfectionism and second guessing ourselves, and it keeps us stuck. So having a laugh can really help move the energy and help inspire you. And when you're inspired, you start to gain more clarity on what the next move is. Right, we have indecision. I use my intuition in all aspects of life. You can't make this up because we've already talked about this, right? That it's important to connect into your intuition more in this time. Pay attention to it. What is coming up that you just know or you feel deep within your heart or your gut or what have you that has to do with your finances and your career? And it might not directly translate into that. It might be something more in your personal life, but that thing is, or that person or situation is affecting your ability to advance, to create the abundance that you deserve. Listening to your intuition more and trusting it. Ooh, and change. I understand that nothing can grow or evolve without movement. Yeah. So, how open are you to change? Because if the answer is, I don't really want to, there's a lot of resistance there, that's something you want to look into. Maybe that's what your inner child is talking about when they say, do what you need to do. Look at where there's resistance, because where there's resistance, it's going to tell you a lot about why you aren't there yet and how you get there. Because once you let that go and you're like, hey, I'm going to try it anyway, and I'm not going to be stuck in indecision, and I'm going to embrace the humor of life, the more likely you are going to experience a positive transformation. So overall, group 3, it looks really promising that you're going to improve your finances and that new opportunities are coming. It's just also equally important that you focus on where there's any need for healing, any need for attention in your life, whether it's personal or related to your career and finances. With that said, let me know what resonates, and if you had any ahas and you want to share them, you feel comfortable sharing them in the comments, I would love to hear them. And I will see you soon. I wish you well, and I hope that you call in all of the abundance that you deserve. Welcome back, group 4. This is your reading if you chose this gorgeous deck and that gorgeous crystal right there, the pink Mangano Calcite. So pink Mangano Calcite is really great for connecting to your heart chakra. This is self-love and self-worth related, as well as being able to give and receive love and compassion. It can help you to achieve emotional calm and emotional healing. And it's really great for those who have been through traumas that they're trying to heal. It is also really great for connecting to your intuition, because our heart chakra is our door to our intuition. So when our heart is open and we have a connection to love and self-love, then we have a deeper connection to our intuition as well. And that's only a couple of things that you can use it for, because there are so many metaphysical uses for all of the crystals. All right, what does group 4 need to know about career and finances? What's to come next? Ooh, okay. So we're starting out real strong here with the Ace of Swords. So this indicates that there's a new idea coming in, a new path, new beginning of some sort. Ooh, and it might be coming in really fast, because we have the Chariot, and these two cards together really jive with the colors and everything in my mind. But the Chariot is really an energy of victory a lot of the time, of success. So this can be read as there's something new coming in, a new idea, a new opportunity. It could really have the potential of success. The Chariot to me always feels like a fast moving card. There is motion in the card, and it also signifies movement. So this could be something new where you are required to relocate, or you're thinking about relocating. It also could mean that you are somebody who travels for work, and there is a big thing coming up where you are going to need to travel for that, or you're contemplating working maybe even in the travel or transportation industry. So all of that could be the case, but I am feeling like what's to come for group 4 right off the bat is something quick is likely to come in. So pay attention to new things that come up. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean something completely brand new. It might mean a new role in what you're currently doing, a step up of some sort, some kind of leadership thing. Like I said, maybe you're stepping into something within your current career where you are going to start traveling a little bit more for work. Or maybe the new opportunity comes in while you're traveling and it's not necessarily work related. Just keep your ears and eyes open, because like I said, it does feel like there is something coming in that's going to improve your finances and also open up doors for you that could be coming in quite fast in the near future. And then we have the Queen of Wands. So you're going through a period of allowing yourself to be seen. There is a sense of confidence and carrying yourself in a more leadership way. So maybe that's something that you want to do, is be in some sort of managerial or leadership role. Or you maybe want to educate or be a speaker or something like that, where you do have to be comfortable with being seen. It could even be social media, where something about social media, whether that you're going to be an influencer or you use social media to bring in clients if you're a business owner or something like that. This ability to be seen is really important, and it could really take off if you allow it to, but it's going to require following your passion and trusting a little bit more that if you stand in confidence and you stand in your own authenticity, that it is possible for you. 2 cards fell out. So we're going to see what those are. Yeah, so we were just talking about how it's important to see yourself in a certain way and also your situation, because the 4 of Cups is often about apathy. It's being really disconnected and withdrawn and kind of over it sort of energy. And when we look at how we view our career or our finances or our ability to create the things that we want, all of that stuff, is there a way that we could be looking at it that is going to be more useful to us? And are we withdrawing because we're in disbelief or we're not really grateful for the things that have already been afforded to us, etc.? Kind of just in the wrong mindset. So pay attention to if those types of thoughts come up. You might not be like always in that, but pay attention to it. Because we have 1 cup that's being offered and it's got light and like this is a cool opportunity, but we're not even looking at it because we're so stuck in this over here and what this means and how like we're just over it because things aren't working out, or whatever else might be. Maybe you're just a little bit overworked right now, a little bit stressed out, and so you just can't quite see that there is an opportunity that something is going to work out, or it has the potential of working out for you for the better, but it's going to require being a little bit of a dreamer. The Page of Cups that came out with the 4 of Cups, in some ways, they're sort of opposite energies. The Page of Cups can be that person that believes in the impossible in some cases. They're the daydreamer. They're kind of the same energy, in my opinion, as the Fool. They want to embrace the adventure of life, and they want to see their dreams come into fruition, and they believe that that's possible. They are led by emotion. So are you, when you're stuck in this, it's probably because you're avoiding feeling a certain emotion, and so you're kind of numbing yourself out. The Page is like, no, let's feel the emotion and let's let that drive us. Let's let that bring us closer to the goal. There might be a little bit of emotional healing, and I guess we talked about that with the pink Mangano Calcite, that could have been an indicator that that's the case. There might be a little bit of emotional healing that would really serve you to take place so that you can experience the success that is trying to come in for you. And so that you can feel that confidence and that commanding energy of the Queen. And so you can create this, right? Because this is financial security. It's stability. The 10 of Pentacles. So everything that you do when you're in belief of yourself and you are willing to say, what if? What if I just try this? What if I just take the steps? What if I get moving? And then you actually do that. Like, you can't just ask the question. But when you do it, what could you potentially be building? Because isn't the goal for most, if not all of us, to build financial security and possibly generational wealth? Before we get into the oracle cards, let's just recap the tarot. As I was saying, you have the potential of building real security here. We've talked about some big themes of building that belief in self, that self-confidence, and standing in your power, your truth, your authenticity, and how that's going to be really important. But likely you're not going to be able to do that without focusing on the aspects of emotional healing. So if that's something that is resonating with you, or if you're feeling resistance to it, ask yourself, why am I feeling resistance to it? Is it because I truly am not in this withdrawn energy, or the resistance to feeling the feels, or is it because I'm in resistance to feeling the feels? And this isn't about me being right or wrong. I'm just saying that because I'm being pushed to say that. So you definitely have a real chance at financial security and advancement in your career in group 4s coming up next in those topics. Some of them are in reverse right now, but that's okay. We'll fix that. Okay, we have joy. So we were just talking about emotions and the importance of feeling them. And joy is something that often helps you bring in more abundance. So how can you feel more joy for life, even for your career? And when it comes to finances and abundance, even looking at, why do you want more money? And I know that might sound silly, like, well, everyone wants more money. But what are you going to do with that? And how is it going to bring more joy? I'm not saying necessarily that money brings happiness, but when you are able to appreciate it more and do the things that bring you joy with it, that's going to help you attract more. Okay? So that's something you definitely want to potentially look into. Then we have courage. Having the courage to face your emotions and feel them. Having the courage to take that leap. And anywhere that you are feeling resistance, again, looking at that. Because it's so easy to say, oh, I don't like this feeling I'm having. I just don't need to evaluate this. But a lot of the time when we're having an ick feeling about something, and I'm not specifically talking about the reading because obviously I don't want you to claim something that doesn't feel aligned to you, but I'm talking about in life, when we have resistance to something, it can serve us to look at it deeper and then step in that courage. I mean, look at our chariot here. Our chariot is a white tiger, and the queen has courage. She has had the courage to really stand for who she is and not let somebody else's potential thoughts of her deter her from being who she is and standing in that power and being that fire. Okay, there's one that's flipped over. But it's abundance. So here is a good sign that you are definitely calling in more abundance and that it's available to you. And there are no coincidences, right? It got set on top of the Ace of Swords, which is that new potential, that new opportunity that might be coming in, or even that new way of thinking of things that if you follow that, it's going to bring more abundance, and it could bring more abundance fast. It's a good sign for you. And I think you're the only group that the abundance card actually came out for in this finance and career reading. Now we're going to check in with the inner child, and if you watched any of the other ones, you would have heard this spiel as well, that I always like to check in with the inner child when it comes to anything to do with relationships, whether that's our relationship with self, with others, with money, with our career, because our inner child holds so many beliefs about our self-worth, about money and our ability to obtain it and all of those things. We form so much of that in our childhood, and usually in our early childhood, before age 8. So inner child is always going to have something for us to look into. It's time to celebrate. Cultivate an air of celebration today. It's over joy and abundance. And I believe I said that joy helps us bring in more abundance. So when we're connected to that energy, so celebrating things, because what better way to express joy is to celebrate. Celebrate yourself. Celebrate that it's Tuesday or whatever day you're watching this. It doesn't matter, but bringing in that era of celebration is going to help. Especially if you're feeling more withdrawn or anything like that, or in avoidance of anything. Celebrating is going to help you open up. And listen, your inner child has something to say. So, as I said at the start of the inner child's cards, our inner child holds a lot of our beliefs about ourselves and our ability to create what we want, our money beliefs, etc. So it might serve you to tune in with your inner child. And the way that I tend to recommend this, but there's a lot more resources out there online if you want to dig a little bit deeper, is wherever you are thinking that there's an issue, might be finances, might be career advancement, or finding a career or a job, write down a list of all of the thoughts. Take a few minutes and write down all of the thoughts that come to your mind when you think about finding a job, for example. Highlight a couple of them that really stand out to you. And then, one by one, go back. You might need to meditate on this, or you might just give yourself a second and it will come to you. When was the last time I had this thought? And explore that. Journal about that. Because 9 times out of 10, you're going to realize that it was in early childhood. And the power in realizing that is when we form things in early childhood and we carry them around with us, a lot of the time unconsciously, we have the ability to change that way of thinking real quick when we realize, I don't even really believe that. That's just something that I witnessed as a small child, and I made it mean XYZ. And it's actually not really that hard for me to decide, actually, I don't believe that anymore. I'm going to believe this thing. Listen to your inner child and what they have to say about this. And one more set of cards. These are soul lesson cards. So they come with a bit of an affirmation, but they're also lessons that you're likely learning when it comes to career and finances. So gratitude. I am thankful for this life and the opportunities that it presents. We've already talked a little bit about gratitude, I believe, when we were talking about the Four of Cups, because sometimes that can indicate a lack of gratitude. And I'm not saying this in terms of you're ungrateful people in group 4. You might be plenty grateful, but is there something that you could have more gratitude towards, maybe when it comes to finances, or when it comes to career, when it comes to the energy of money in general? Something like that, or even just in life in general, because the more grateful you are about the things that you have, the more likelihood that you have the ability to create more. And also, gratitude is an energy that is connected to abundance. So the more gratitude you have for life, the more abundant you are going to be. And in other words, gratitude is actually opening up opportunities for you. So, self-esteem. I possess gifts of the soul that benefit me and others. We've been talking a lot about the self-confidence piece, the self-love and self-worth piece. And self-esteem obviously goes in with that as well. So I possess gifts of the soul that benefit me and others. Understanding that you bring worth to the table. There are things that people are going to benefit from if you allow yourself to shine like the Queen of Wands. Quite honestly, you're doing people a disservice when you keep yourself hidden because you have a fear of what are people going to think. Somebody needs the gifts that you have. I guess you're getting 4 of these. Every other group got 3, but 2 just fell out as I was speaking. The gifts that you have are things that someone or someones really need. And they're just waiting for it to pop up for them in some way. Patience. I accept that everything happens in divine order. So if you're feeling like, hey, Tanya said this was going to happen fast, it's not happening fast enough, sometimes a little bit of patience is going to go a long way for you. So if things aren't happening in the timeline that you are hoping for, sometimes there's a reason for that. I think all of the time there's a reason for that. And sometimes we're never going to really know the reason, but maybe it's opening up for something even bigger and better to take place. And then we have honesty. The light is really shining brightly on that. This is looking a little messy, but we'll make it work. Honesty. I can't always expect the truth from others, but I can expect it from myself. And we've been talking so much about authenticity and being in your integrity and standing in that. And unfortunately, it's true that we can't control other people and how they're going to act if they're going to be standing in their integrity and authenticity. But you can count on yourself. It doesn't feel good when you're not being honest with yourself because you're going to feel out of alignment. Taking a good hard look and being honest with yourself, but also loving and compassionate. Because honesty, sometimes we look at this like, I'm just being honest, and you're really beating yourself up. You're really being hard on yourself. I just had a friend check me on that the other day because I was really beating myself up about how I acted in a situation. And she was like, you're really using a lot of harsh words on yourself. And from my perspective, there's no reason for it. You're owning your place in it, and it's time to let it go. You don't need to hold on to it. And in my brain, until she said that, and I realized like she had a valid point, that I wasn't creating anything better for myself by what I thought was being honest with myself, but I was being hypercritical. I had already really dealt with my honest place in the situation, and I had already, owned my place in it with the other person involved. And it was time for me to just let it go and to be at peace with it. But I was under the false guise that, no, I'm just being honest with myself and I'm holding myself accountable. So be careful with that as well, of that you are not being hypercritical, you're just being honest. Okay? With all of that said, I wish you the best of luck. It looks like you definitely have a lot coming in when it comes to finances and career. It could be something that starts to take place quite quickly after watching this. And I'm not saying that this is the catalyst of that. It might actually be, though, because it does plant seeds in your brain, right? So with that said, if you have any big ahas or anything that you would like to share, I would love to read those in the comments and respond to you. I hope this reading blesses you. I hope you're blessed with all of the abundance that you deserve, and I will see you soon.